Welcome back to another episode of With a Grain of Salt. I am your host, Isaiah Salter, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in for yet another week. We are back, my beautiful people, we are back. This week, we're going to be getting into navigating your transformation. I was thinking about this idea of transformation this past week because I'm starting to realize how certain people I knew from, high school, early years of college are starting to resonate a little bit more with the content that I put out. Now, the reason that this really sparked my interest and resonated with me is because I realized that each and every person, hopefully, has a moment where they wake up, where something happens that kind of makes them take a step back and they realize that how they've been living no longer aligns, and they feel like a transformation is either happening in the moment or they're stepping into one. And so I think we're always going to evolve and transform and, change into newer and aligned versions of ourselves. But I think it's so incredibly important to talk about the different facets of your transformation and of your change and making sure that we're having the right perspective on the things that we're going to face, because it's inevitable. We're all gonna have to constantly go through transformation, whether it's different seasons, different relationships, different, careers, different journeys, whatever it may be. And so learning how to navigate those times of transformation in a healthy and aligned way is something that we're going to dive into and do together. So let's begin. Point number 1 for navigating your transformation: the discomfort of change. When you first start going through an internal shift, it feels like the ground beneath you is moving. Old ways of thinking don't sit right anymore. The people you once connected with might not feel aligned. Even the goals you used to chase don't carry the same spark. This can be deeply unsettling because your identity is being stretched and part of you wants to cling to the familiar. That tension, that unease, the confusion is not a sign you're failing. It's actually proof of your transforming. It's proof of your transforming. The tension, the unease, the confusion, it's not a sign you're failing. It is actually proof that you're transforming. So when you're going through different parts of your journey and you start to feel that tension, you start to feel that unease internally, understand that that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean you're moving in the wrong direction. It's probably a sign that you're on the brink of transforming, that you're going through a season of transformation, all right? So have the right perspective on that so that when it comes up, we can navigate it in a healthy way. It says growth almost always comes disguised as discomfort. Just like sore muscles mean your body is building strength, inner tension means your soul is building depth. Growth almost always comes disguised as discomfort. But because so many people have the wrong perception and relationship with discomfort, the moment it comes up, they think something is wrong. They're doing something wrong. They're moving in the wrong direction. But in actuality, growth almost always comes disguised as discomfort. And when you understand that truth, the moment discomfort arises in your life, you are going to start viewing it as a gateway to growth and not a hindrance to your growth, or not a blockage to you, becoming better and more aligned and more authentic. No, we're going to view times of discomfort as opportunities to grow, as actually a part of the growth, right? Discomfort and growth, they go hand in hand. So when discomfort comes, we immediately correlate it to growth. And when you start living your life in a way to where anytime some discomfort arises in your life and you're able to immediately correlate that with growth, that right there is going to change your life. That right there is going to change your life when you start really living in that way, right? And just like sore muscles mean your body is building strength, inner tension means your soul is building depth, right? Just like when you go to the gym, right, and you lift weights and your muscles are sore, and that soreness means that your body is developing strength, that your muscles are growing. It's the same in your life. When you feel that inner tension, usually it's because your soul is building depth. You're going through a transformational period that's developing you internally, right? And that developing doesn't always feel comfortable. Sometimes, just like your muscles are sore, it's going to feel a little tense. It's going to feel a little uncomfortable, right? But we're going to embrace it with the right mindset and right perspective, understanding that it's a part of us growing. It's our soul developing more depth so that we can hold more in this human experience. That's a beautiful thing. It says, if you're feeling restless or out of place, it does not mean you're lost. It means you're outgrowing what no longer fits you. That's uncomfortable, but it's the highest compliment your spirit can pay you. When you're feeling out of place, right, you're feeling restless, that does not mean you are lost. It's just a sign you're outgrowing what no longer aligns, what no longer fits you. Understand that when you feel out of place, when you feel that discomfort and you're operating in a place to where you're like, nah, these things don't really fit me anymore. These things don't really align with me anymore. Rather than viewing that as I'm lost, I don't know what I'm doing, view that as a compliment from your spirit. That is a compliment that you are growing, that you are evolving, that you are transforming into a better, more aligned version of yourself. So when things no longer align, when certain things that you've been attached to or connected to for so long no longer fit you, and you feel that inner tension, right? You feel a little bit out of place. You feel that discomfort. Understand that that's actually your spirit complimenting you on you growing. That's a sign that you are literally becoming more aligned, becoming more authentic, right? Becoming more in congruence with the highest version of you. And that's a beautiful thing to know. It says the butterfly feels the pain of the cocoon before it ever feels the freedom of its wings. The butterfly feels the pain of the cocoon before it ever feels the freedom of its wings. Understand that the pain you are going through is part of the process to you stepping into everything that you were meant for, right? The pain of you going through that cocoon season is preparation for you to step into the freedom of your wings, right? But you have to go through that period of discomfort in order to step into the things that are for you. Just like the butterfly has to feel the pain of the cocoon before it feels the freedom of its wings. You are going to have to go through some discomfort, right? Some tension, some confusion in order to step into the most truest, authentic version of yourself, right? So when we're in that cocoon and we're feeling that pain, we're going to double down on our perspective. We're going to double down on our mindset. We're going to double down on what we know to be true, that this season is not here to break me. It's here to build me. That what I am going through, I am growing through. That me being in this cocoon is not happening to me. It's happening for me, right? We're going to double down on that so that we can step into the freedom of our wings when it's time to. Come on. A practice for point number 1. When you feel overwhelmed by the discomfort, pause. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, what part of me is this change trying to grow? Write your answer down. Giving the discomfort meaning transforms it from something you fear into something you can trust. So true. Giving your discomfort meaning can transform the way you navigate discomfort as a whole. A lot of times, the only meaning behind discomfort in our life is not good or something we should fear or something we should run from, right? But when you shift the meaning to a part of my growth, a part of my development, right? A prerequisite to me becoming better. The way you navigate it is going to change. That's the meaning you need to give to discomfort. Discomfort is growth. It is not the opposite of growth, right? It's not something you should fear. It's not something you should run from. It's something you should lean into, right? And the only reason discomfort feels so uncomfortable at first is because we're so used to not leaning into discomfort. But the more you lean into it, the better you're going to be at navigating discomfort. The less it's going to feel like this crazy resistance or this crazy wall you have to overcome. No, you're going to understand this is a part of growth. So the way you navigate it is going to be a lot more aligned and clear. Point number 2 to navigating your transformation. Confusion as a compass. Confusion as a compass. I love this one. It says, in the early stages of transformation, confusion is common. You begin questioning everything, your choices, your beliefs, even your sense of identity. It feels disorienting, like walking through fog. But here's the truth. That fog is not an obstacle. It's a sign that you're no longer walking on autopilot. Confusion means your old ways of seeing the world do not work anymore. And that's how clarity eventually emerges. Confusion means your old ways of seeing the world don't work anymore. And that's how clarity eventually emerges. Come on, embrace that truth today. That is how clarity eventually emerges. That's so true. Like, especially when you're going through a change, you're going through a transformation. Confusion is a part of those early stages, right? You're going to be confused. You're going to be questioning things, looking around like, what am I doing? Right? That, like, why do I feel this way? You're going to have all these questions, all this confusion. You're going to lack clarity. And I think a lot of times, because we have the wrong perspective, perception, relationship with these things like confusion, we view being confused as a negative thing. We view being confused as we're moving in the wrong direction, right? But understand, confusion is actually a compass. Confusion means your old ways of seeing the world do not work anymore. And that's how clarity eventually emerges. Clarity can only emerge from confusion. So when you are going through a period of your life where you feel confused, lean into that with the understanding that this is actually a stepping stone to lead me into the clarity that I am searching for, right? But confusion is a prerequisite to that. So we're not going to run away from confusion. We're going to use it as a compass. We're going to use it as a guide. We're going to lean into the confusion with a mindset, with an open mindset and a spirit of curiosity, looking for how can I grow in this season? What can I learn from this? What is for me in this, right? It changes how you navigate confusion completely, right? It says it's like walking through the fog, right? It feels like disorienting, like you're walking through fog. But understand that the fog is not an obstacle. The fog, when you're moving in life and you're going through a transformation and it starts to feel like you're walking through fog, right? Where you don't have as much clarity, where things aren't as understandable as they once were. That is not a bad thing. That just means you are no longer walking on autopilot. Usually because we grow up and we're conditioned and programmed to live a certain way, we start to live on autopilot. And when you're living on autopilot, you're living in the familiar. You're living in the known, right? So your steps are predictable and you're just living your life like that. The moment you change or go through a transformational period in your life and you step outside of that conditioning and programming, you're going to be stepping into unknown territory. And that unknown territory is like fog. So when you're going through a season where you feel like it's foggy, you can't really see, understand that's a sign that you are stepping outside of the autopilot of the conditioning and programming you've been living on for so long. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That is a good thing, right? But because we have the wrong perspective of these things, the moment we step out of the known into the unknown and we step into the fog and we lack that clarity and we have a little bit of confusion and some fear arises, we think, nah, this ain't it. I got to go back, right? Because remember, your ego clings to the familiar. So it's always going to try to pull you back to what's known because that's what feels safe to it. But understand that safety is just an illusion that is created and generated by fear, right? So understanding that now, we're going to lean into this fog with that new profound understanding, and we're going to take it one step at a time, trusting in the journey, trusting in the moment, right? Understanding that this confusion that I'm navigating right now, this fog that I'm navigating right now is actually going to lead me to the clarity I'm searching for. That is a beautiful thing, my brothers and sisters. That is a beautiful thing. A quote, it says, confusion is the invitation to step into wisdom. So true. Confusion is an invitation to step into some wisdom. Confusion is an invitation. View confusion as an invitation. Ask questions. Be curious. Be open-minded. And that confusion will lead to some clarity. But it's on you to have the right perspective of it. It's on you to have the right perspective of it. A practice for point number 2. It says, each night, write down one question you have... A practice for point number 2. It says, each night, write down one question you don't have an answer to. Don't force yourself to solve it. Let it breathe. Over time, you'll start to notice clarity arriving, not from overthinking, but from actually living. That's so good, right? Write down a question that, you want the answer to, but you don't have. Just write it down. Put it on a piece of paper right? You don't need to solve it. You don't need to figure it out right now. Just let it breathe and just start to live your life and start to really move intentionally. And watch how just from you trying your best to move intentionally, watch how the clarity arises. But a lot of times we have questions and we stay stagnant until we figure out the answer or until we have some clarity. Or we just try to think our way into clarity, but it doesn't work. Clarity comes from living, not thinking. So write it down, take some space, let it breathe, and move intentionally. Point number 3, identity rebuilding. Identity rebuilding. When you go through a transformation, one of the hardest parts is realizing that your old identity, the roles you played, the labels you wore, the stories you believed, might not be who you truly are. It can feel like losing yourself, but in reality, you're beginning to uncover yourself. It's not about becoming somebody new. It's about stripping away what was never authentically you, right? How many times have we talked about how the journey is not about getting more? It's about letting go of everything that isn't actually you, right? And that letting go can be so hard because it's wrapped up in an identity that we've attached ourselves to, right? The roles that we've played, the labels that we have wore, the stories that we've believed to be ours, right? So it can literally feel like you're losing yourself when you're going through a transformation. But understand, you're not losing yourself. You're discovering who you actually are, and you're letting go of everything that isn't you, right? So that when you're navigating that part of the journey where it feels like you are literally losing yourself, right? Because you are going to go through that part when you're going through a transformation or a change in your life. But when you're navigating that part of your journey where you feel like you are losing yourself, usually it's not you're losing yourself. You're actually discovering who you actually are under all of the things that have been blocking who you actually are. So you're losing all the stuff that doesn't align. And that is a blessing. It's a blessing. It says identities built on survival, like the achiever, the tough one, the people pleaser, served you once, but they can't take you into your next chapter. So true. So true. So much of our identities are built on survival mode, right? We grow up, we're conditioned and programmed in this society, and we're constantly in survival mode. And we create identities from that survival mode, right? Like for me, one of the identities was being a people pleaser. And that was something that when I was going through my transformation and my awakening, that was something I realized that wasn't actually aligned with who I actually was, and I had to let that part of me go. And it was very, very hard because I had to really reflect on how many relationships were built on that part of me, right? Of me being a people pleaser. How many of my relationships were really built on me being a people pleaser? And when I really reflected on that, it was like, dang, like what are those relationships going to look like now that I'm stepping away from that identity of being a people pleaser? I don't want to be that anymore because it doesn't align, and it's rooted in the wrong energy, and it's coming from, insecurity and fear and lack of self-worth, not who I actually am. And so it was something I had to really sit with and reflect, but I trusted the journey. And when you trust the journey, good things will happen, I promise you. And I stepped into even better and more aligned and more congruent relationships ahead. But I had to trust that this identity is no longer serving me, and it's not going to, if I stay attached to it, it's only going to stop me from growing into the chapters and spaces that I'm meant to grow into, right? And so I had to go down that journey of letting it go, It says rebuilding identity means learning to define yourself not by others' expectations, but by the values and truths that actually align with your inner self. So true. In your journey, it's so important to learn how to define yourself, not by others' expectations, but by the values and truths that actually align with who you are. And that takes some soul searching. That takes some, solitude, right? But figure out what really aligns. What are the truths that are really congruent with who you are? And start to live by that, not by other people's expectations, right? And it's a subconscious thing that we do without even realizing it. But so much of rebuilding your identity into a more aligned, authentic version of you is learning how to live by the values and truths that are really aligned with you and letting go of the subtle expectations of others that we've been allowing to drive our vehicle, right? A quote, it says, transformation isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you are underneath the noise. So true, right? We touched on that a little bit ago. Transformation is not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you are underneath the noise. Underneath all of the noise of who you aren't, there's you. And that's what we got to dig deep. That's what digging deep is. That's what soul searching is. That's what spending time intentionally in solitude is. It's removing all of the noise and getting underneath all of it to who you actually are and tapping in with that person, tapping in with that essence, right? And it takes time, but with intention, with awareness, with grace, with love, with open-mindedness, with curiosity, with taking things with a grain of salt, you absolutely can tap into the essence of who you actually are. Come on, and we're going to do it together. We're going to do it together. Let's get it. A practice for point number 3, it says, take out a sheet of paper. On one side, write down the labels you've carried that no longer feel true. The quiet one, the strong one, the failure, whatever it may be. On the other side, write the qualities you want to embody moving forward. I want to embody authenticity, resilience, creativity. Begin practicing decisions that honor the right side list. See what you've been carrying, see what you want to start embodying, see it on a piece of paper, and start to move intentionally. Start to move intentionally. Point number 4 for navigating your transformation. Honoring the spark of hope. Even in the midst of confusion and discomfort, there's usually a small flame inside of you, a sense of possibility, a whisper that says something greater is ahead. That spark is not to be ignored. It's fragile in the beginning, but if you nurture it, it becomes the guiding light that keeps you moving forward. This is so true. This is so true. I remember when I was really going through some stuff mentally and emotionally, and, I was just in a valley, and I was like, I couldn't, with my physical eyes, I couldn't see no way out, right? I couldn't see no way out. But internally, I felt deep down, there was just this little part of me that was just like, but something great can come from this. I don't know what, I don't know how, I don't even know if it's true, but I just feel like, there's something in this for me, right? And that little spark of hope was something I clinged on to so tightly at the beginning of my journey, because if I did not, then I would have fell into despair and helplessness. And once you fall into that, you have become a victim to what you're going through, right? And it's very hard to get out of that. And some people live their whole life being in victim mode, never ever getting out of the valley, right? But when I was going through it, I had that little spark, and I think we all do, right? I think we all do when we're going through a really tough time. And if you could just cling on to that, understanding that that spark is there to guide you, right? It's there because there is something in this struggle, in this discomfort for you. If you could really start to lean into it, it's going to grow, right? It's going to grow, and it's going to turn into something that you can really use later on in your life, no matter what you're going through. And that's a beautiful thing, right? And we're going to talk about how hope evolves and grows throughout your journey. It says hope isn't weak. It's the strongest force because it's the beginning of transformation. Hope is the doorway, but it doesn't stay hope forever, like we just said, right? It evolves. When you protect it and act on it, it evolves into faith, a deeper trust that things are aligning. With time, that faith becomes conviction, an unshakable knowing. And once you live from conviction, nothing outside of you can shake your path. That entire journey starts with a spark of hope. That entire journey starts with a spark of hope, right? It starts with hope, right? You have that little spark within you that says, maybe I can make something of myself. Maybe something good can come out of this. I know it's really hard, but maybe. But what if, right? It's that little part of you that's just like, maybe, right? What if? Let me just see, right? And you lean into that and you act on that and you keep on going on that path. It eventually turns into faith, right? It eventually turns into faith, a deeper trust that you understand that things are aligning for you. Things are working out for you, right? A deeper trust. And then with time, that faith becomes conviction, an unshakable knowing. Right? So it starts with that little spark of hope. You keep leaning into that hope. It turns into faith. You keep leaning into that faith, it turns into conviction. It turns into a no. And when you start living from conviction, it's a wrap. Nothing can shake your path, right? That I am so convinced. I don't have hope that things are going to work out. I don't have faith that things are going to work out. I know things are going to work out. And that is a conviction that is in every fiber of my being. And I wake up every day feeling like everything is working for my highest good because I know that to be true, right? And that's how it evolves. Because when I first was going down this journey, I promise you, I have so many doubts, so many insecurities, so many fears. I'm just clinging on to hope. I'm hanging on by a thread. But I'm going to keep on trying and keep on moving, and hopefully something can come from this, right? And then you see certain things happen, right? You start to feel the growth, and it's like, nah, I got faith that this is going to work. I like this. Like, let's keep moving in this direction. I have faith that everything is working out, right? And then you make that leap to conviction, right? Whether it's you see something physically, you move into a new, season, whatever it is, right? Something happens where you shift into that state of conviction where you're like, nah, I know. You've seen enough things happen to know that the journey you're on and that what you're doing is aligned and that everything is working for your highest good. You've seen enough. So now it's conviction. So now it's just you're living your life from that, and you know. And the thing about conviction too that's so powerful is whatever you're convicted by, life will reflect back to you. Whatever you are convicted by, life will reflect back to you. So if you are convicted on things not working out for you, things never going your way, things being hard for you all the time, always being casted with burdens, always being rejected, right? If that's what you're convicted on or convicted about, life will reflect that back to you. But when you shift and you're convicted that everything is working for your highest good, no matter what you're going through. Everything that is happening to you is happening for you, right? Everything is an opportunity. When you really are convicted about those truths, life will reflect that back to you, right? Because remember, conviction is an internal thing, and you don't get back what you want, you get back what you are. So if you are internally convicted that everything is working out for your highest good, that everything always works out for you, and you're really convicted by that, you will get that back, I promise you. But it works both ways. That's why you have to be very mindful and do some self-reflection, self-auditing, and making sure that your convictions internally are aligned with what you're trying to get back, right? It says, nurturing hope doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing to keep your eyes open for growth, lessons, and new beginnings, even when life feels heavy. That's so true. Nurturing hope is not about ignoring reality, right? When you're going through a really tough time, you're going through a really low period in your life, hope isn't about ignoring what you're going through. It's just about keeping your eyes open for the growth, lessons, and opportunities in what you're going through, right? We're not neglecting that you're going through a very, very tough time. You're facing some discomfort, some struggle, some setback, some failure, a heartbreak, whatever it may be, right? Depression, anxiety, mental, emotional, whatever, right? We're not ignoring that you're going through these things, right? We have become aware, and we've accepted that this is what we're going through. But we're going to use hope as a guiding light to help us to keep our eyes open for the growth, lessons, and opportunities in this season that we're going through. So yes, it's hard, but I have hope. Yes, I'm hurting, but I got hope. Yes, it's painful and uncomfortable, but I got hope. No, I can't see a way out, but I got hope, right? And that's how it starts. And you just keep, but I got hope, and you keep leaning onto that hope. And keep moving into that. And then it turns to faith, right? Yes, I'm heartbroken. Yes, I'm going through some discomfort. Yes, I'm going through some struggle, but I have faith that things are going to work out, that things are going to be okay. And when it does work out, it turns to conviction. Now honestly, it's like, yeah, I'm going through, a transition period. Even the way you talk about the struggle changes. It's like you don't even call it struggle. I'm not really going through a struggle. I'm going through a transition period. I'm going through a season of letting go. I'm just going through a season of refinement. That's all. But that's that conviction talking that no matter what you're going through, everything is working out for you. So you don't even start viewing struggle as struggle. You start viewing struggle as blessings and opportunities. And that right there, man, come on, man. Come on, bro. Come on. It's beautiful. It says, hope is the seed that grows into vision when you choose to water it daily. Water that hope within you. Water that hope within you. And as you water that hope, it is going to grow into faith. And as you continue to water that faith, it's going to grow into conviction. And once you allow that conviction to carry you through this life, there's nothing you can't do. There's nothing you cannot do. Come on. A practice for point number 4. It says, before bed, reflect on your day and write down 3 small things that gave you even a flicker of hope, a kind word, a new thought, or even your own courage. This rewires your brain to search for evidence that life is supporting your transformation. This is important, y'all. This is important. You want to do things that help your brain to search out evidence that life is supporting your transformation, because it's gonna help you to understand, or it's gonna help you to navigate those times way better. You're not gonna feel so alone. You're gonna feel like, no, I have the whole universe on my side. That's in The Alchemist, right? When you have a dream, the whole universe conspires to help you achieve it, right? One of my favorite books, one of my favorite quotes. When you have a dream, the whole universe conspires to help you achieve it. Lean into that. Come on. And point number 5, the last point. Walking one step at a time, right? Walking one step at a time. When you're in the middle of transformation, the biggest temptation is to want all the answers right now. You want to know where you're going, who you're becoming, and how it's all going to work out. But the truth is, life unfolds in steps, not leaps. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. The only thing you need to do is focus on the next right step. Right? I love this. When you are going through a season of change, season of transformation, it's very tempting to fall into the trap of needing to know how everything's going to work out, right? Needing to know when things are going to happen, how things are going to happen, what it's going to look like. But you have to understand that life unfolds in steps, not leaps, right? And that understanding can shift how you maneuver through those seasons in a whole different way. Understand that life unfolds in steps, not leaps. A lot of times when we're going through different seasons, we want to leap to the end. We want to know how everything's going to work, right? But you have to understand that life unfolds in steps. So you have to start to embody that, right? Don't get so caught up in trying to figure everything out and understand the whole scheme right away that it takes you away from just embracing the next step, right? Understand life unfolds in steps, not leaps. And then you have to understand that clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. A lot of people want clarity, and because they want the clarity, they become stagnant. And because they're stagnant, they're waiting for clarity, and it's just this wait, right? You're waiting for clarity. But when you just start to move with hope, with faith, with conviction, with trust, when you just start to move in that one step at a time, through you taking steps, through you getting up and moving, that is what creates the clarity. Remember that clarity does not come before action. It comes from action. Clarity does not come before action. It comes from action, right? So do not allow lack of clarity to paralyze you into not moving, because all it's going to do is compound over time. It's not going to create clarity. It's going to create more confusion, right? And so understanding that, let's just take one step at a time and trust that through this journey, clarity will arise, because clarity does not come before action. It comes from action. Come on. Like we just said, trying to see the entire future at once leads to paralysis. But when you shrink it down to the next faithful step, movement becomes possible. Trying to see the entire future, trying to see the entire path at once leads to paralysis. But when you shrink it down to the step right in front of you, it becomes manageable. It becomes possible, right? Movement actually can happen because you could take one step, right? You may not be able to jump to the end, take that leap that your mind is trying to create, but you absolutely could take a step. So we're going to take that step with faith, with love, with hope, with conviction. Wherever you are in your journey, we're going to take that step today. It says transformation is not a lightning bolt. It's a daily rhythm. Every small decision in alignment builds momentum toward the person you're becoming. Transformation is not a lightning bolt. It's not instant. It's a daily rhythm. So you have to figure out your unique rhythm for the season that you're in and trust in that every single day and understand that every small decision in alignment builds momentum towards the person you're trying to become. It's not a lightning bolt. It's a daily rhythm. Find that daily rhythm, stay consistent with it, and trust in the process. And you're going to evolve into everything you're meant to evolve to. I promise you that. You are going to evolve into everything that you're meant to evolve into. That's a beautiful thing. It says, the path reveals itself not to those who wait, but to those who walk. A lot of people are waiting for the path to open up before they take steps. Understand that as you begin to walk, that movement is what actually reveals the path, right? So don't fall into the trap of waiting for clarity. Walk, and then you will step into the clarity. Come on. Because that's how you have to view it, right? So it's like if you're starting here, right? The clarity is up here, right? Let's say the clarity is 10 steps down the road. A lot of people, they're standing at the first step, waiting for the clarity to come first, not realizing that if you would just take steps, you're going to walk into the clarity. That's why clarity comes from action, not before action. Right? So many people become paralyzed because they're at the starting point and they're waiting for clarity first before they move, not realizing that it's the movement that's going to allow them to step into the clarity, because the clarity is up the road a little bit. You just got to move into it. Right? But because you can't see it, you stay stuck waiting for it to come. But no, you have to move in faith. We don't move by what we see. We don't move by what we see. We don't move by what we can see. We move by what we know to be true for us. We move by that little inclination, that little part of us, that little spark of hope that says go, that intuition that says go, right? A practice is each morning, ask yourself, what's one small step I could take today that aligns with the version of me I want to grow into? It might be a phone call, a workout, a prayer, or simply speaking kind to yourself. One step at a time is how One step at a time is how mountains are climbed. One step at a time is how mountains are climbed, right? Nobody jumps from the bottom to the top. One step at a time is how the mountain is climbed. So, in your journey, the way to climb to the best version of yourself, to evolve to the best version of yourself, is one step at a time. Trust each step. Right? And every step might not be the same. Some steps are going to be harder than others. Trust each step. Trust each step. And just keep on moving with that. So, no matter where you find yourself in this moment, confused, searching, or uncertain, remember that transformation isn't meant to be clean or clear all at once. It's messy, it's layered, and it often feels heavier before it feels lighter. But the very fact that you feel this shift means you're alive to it. And that awareness itself is a gift. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to keep showing up, honoring the spark inside of you, and trusting that every step, no matter how small, is leading you closer to the truest version of yourself. My brothers and sisters, I appreciate each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you. And remember, most importantly, to take everything with a grain of salt. I will catch you guys next week. Deuces.